We're joined with Ron Wilkie, the director for Neil Simon's Laughter on the 23rd Floor. Starting next week at Beaver Dam Area Community Theater. Tickets online, bdact.org. We're also joined with Laurel Gesh and John Stratman. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you
Happy
for
to be
inviting
here.
us.
So, Ron, how many productions have you directed now at
Oh my
BDACT?
goodness, it's in the neighborhood of 5. This is the first one that probably is by a known writer. All the others were a little on the obscure side or local authors. So this is exciting to try to do Neil Simon correctly.
So Neil Simon is a big deal.
Yes.
Who is he? What is his history?
Well, Neil he was born in the New York area and raised there, and he pretty much grew up writing comedy. His very first television job was the fictitious show that we are putting on here. It was called the Your Show of Shows. It starred Sid Caesar and oh my goodness. Anyway, he was the main star in it, and that is one of our main characters is a takeoff of the Sid Caesar character, and Neil Simon. The Neil Simon character, which John Stratman plays, is a young Neil Simon being on board at first his second week on a trial 4-week basis to see if he can cut it, and it's in a writer's room with the best of the best. In fact, the real life writers in that room have a legacy that extends into modern day Broadway and TV and movies. I mean, you think of just Neil Simon alone, The Odd Couple, and Barefoot in the Park, Brighton Peach Memoirs, Goodbye Girl, all kinds of them. And then we also had Carl Reiner, who ended up writing and starring in the Dick Van Dyke Show and a lot of other things, and Carl Reiner's son Rob, who has wrote one of my favorites, which is The Princess Bride.
Yes.
So if you're into that cult, thank you and welcome. Another one was Mel Brooks. We've all heard of Mel Brooks, Blazing Saddles, Men in Tights, Spaceballs. See, this is a writer's room that we're the best of the best, and when the group all gets together, it is, even when they're not writing the show, they are hilarious, and we've picked actors, we didn't pick them; they came to us. We got I think. I couldn't be more happy with the people that are portraying these legendary writers.
Just because Ron mentioned you first, John, then Laurel, we can go to yourself. John, how did you get interested in this play? What were you looking for? What were you hoping to find?
I was looking forward to, my main theater experience for the past few years has been musicals, and while I have done regular plays before, the opportunity presented with this one was the opportunity to dig deeper into a character beyond being in a musical number or singing something. It's a very interesting opportunity to be able to portray someone in the current moment, but a voice from the future looking back at everybody around, and this is the moment I knew this would happen. This meant this for me. It's kind of like an all-encompassing sort of life thing. It's not just being a narrator. It's because I'm involved in the narrative. I find that very interesting.
Did you find that difficult on the first couple of days to rein in your musical impulses? Did you want to sing everything that you were reading on the script?
Well, there's it can be, yeah. I mean, they had to tie me down to stop me from tap dancing. So.
Absolutely,
I believe it.
Yeah, and he's a good tap dancer too, I might add.
Really?
His character, like you said, his character breaks the fourth wall. His character speaks to the audience and narrates what has happened and what's about to happen in the show, which is always a lot of fun when you stop the scene to have a character step out and tell you either what has happened or what's about to happen or both.
Laurel, I remember seeing you last year for sort of a similar play with Jake Revolver.
Yeah.
And what attracted you to this particular play?
Kind of the same thing John was saying was just about being able to really hone in on a specific character. And my character of Carol specifically because she is the only female writer on the writing staff. And so she brings her own unique voice to it. She has her quirks just like the rest of the staff does, but she kind of she just sees through a lot of the jokes when they're not, on air or they're not writing. And so that's kind of, it's fun to play. It's fun to be able to do the quirky stuff that she, the little pieces that we find, but also to be able to just bring it back and just just cut through all of it.
So the engine of this comedy is part of the conflict with the executives and the writers, and you have, like, Laurel, your character, kind of breaking down the jokes that people are using when they're not really turned on in the writer's mind, and kind of deconstructing that. So there's a lot of engines of comedy in this play.
Absolutely, and what the beautiful part of the character Carol is, number one, she gets some of the best laugh lines, and they're subtle. They're so subtle. You kind of have to pay attention to it, but in most of the cases, the one-liners that she gives as asides will have the audience laughing frequently. So we have to make sure we get the rest of the people going that way. But you're right, the comedy, you have writers that are writing sketches, and there will be one sketch that will be featured within the show. But the rest of the time they're just brainstorming. In normal language, they're funny people, and they funny themselves on a fairly regular basis. There will be one scene where two of the writers that don't necessarily get along very well that will have a joke off, and that ends with a really great physical comedy bit. So and there's a lot of physical comedy within this too. So you have physical comedy, you have literally the comedy within the dialogue, and you have the comedy in the written sketch that's featured in Act 2.
So when Laurel and John, when you guys are developing these characters, you're reading the script, do you have a process that you like to start with? And Laurel, we can start with yourself. Are you internalizing? Are you reading up on similar characters? Where are you finding your inspiration for your role?
Yeah, a little bit of research, a little bit of finding out something similar, or finding out who she was based off of and going off of that and seeing the work that she actually did to find the type of comedy that she did. But a lot of it, finding the character, is just she's not trying to be funny. She's just funny. And that goes along with a lot of the other characters too, that they're not trying to be funny. They just are. So that can be a little difficult because you're trying to find the joke as an actor to make it funny and want the audience to react to it. But the human of her is she's just funny.
So you're trying to be effortless.
Yeah.
And that's very difficult because you're putting effort into not showing any effort at all.
Yes.
That's a real conundrum. Mm-hmm. John, what about yourself playing the title character here?
My character he's new. He's the new guy, and he's desperate to prove himself. And so in the beginning, there's a lot of nerves that I try to put into the performance. And one thing I am always trying to consider is that this character turns out to be Neil Simon. So he is constantly writing things down. He is constantly, he worships comedy. So when he is seeing an outburst during a joke off, when he sees them throwing shoes whatever which way, he can be shocked, but at the same time he is in awe, and in the same time he is writing this down because this is great stuff. So that's what I try to draw from, just thinking that this character is an author, and he's a fictionalization of Neil Simon, but he eventually, just keeping that big picture in mind, that's what I'm going for.
So starting off as a young writer, you mentioned that you'd have a lot of nerves. You're in a room, there's a lot of cigarette smoke, there's guys in big suits who are telling you how things need to be done around here. As the play progresses, does your character start to find their footing a little bit and they start to become a little less nervous?
Sometimes I feel like I'm playing two characters. There's Act 1 Lucas and Act 2 Lucas. The way I enter in Act 1, I try to be just very, like, I'm looking around a lot. I am just like, I'm intentionally making my body very stiff. And then when Act 2 opens, I am basically just laying back, and I am just holding my cup of coffee. I have my legs up on something. It is so always like trying to. Well, in Act 1, I'm stammering, and in Act 2, I am just almost doing it almost feels like doing a stand-up routine with how the zingers are delivered.
So because you two are both here in front of Ron, and Ron, I'm going to ask you, was there anything in the performances that you kind of noticed that you had to coach them on, or was there any direction that you were trying to shift them in?
Well, obviously, you give a lot of direction. I know that, but with most of the actors that we've chosen for this, they've been there, done that. For the most part, I share with them my vision for what the scene I think is, what the character would, and I challenge them to do their own research, to find their own character. Okay, this character is based on a real person. Go see who that real person was. How would this character interact with all of the other characters, and especially the star of the show, which was Sid Caesar, which is now Max Prince in the show. How would you interact with this person? What do you think of this person? And so for the most part, we challenge them. Diane Rebale and I have sat in the audience for every single performance, and while she is my stage manager, I think of her as a co-director, because what I don't see, she sees, and what she doesn't see, I see, and between the two of us, we find the vision, we figure out where everybody should be, what looks good, what doesn't look good, and we might even, talk about an emphasis here or there, but for the most part, these guys have got it. They know, they have, and we have a lot of directors on the stage as well. And that's the thing with community theater. We all kind of take our turns. I've directed and produced, and I've been backstage, and I've been on stage several times, and it's the same with many of our cast. They've been there, done that from a community theater standpoint. Now you can hear them talking backstage. They're second, it'd really cool if you do that, and they'll come out and do it, and I'll either say, that's great, or yeah, maybe we shouldn't do that. So usually, if it doesn't affect copyright, I'm going to say yes. Yeah.
And talking about the interaction, when you guys are in the rehearsals and you're trying to get things together, Laurel, we can start with yourself. How did you feel the dynamic was in this play of everyone working together? What were your impressions?
Kind of a lot similar to the actual show, because there are, seasoned pros that are in this cast, and so that really know their stuff. They know the ins and out, like Ron was saying, and so it's very collaborative. I guess to answer your question, it's just very everybody is really willing to try something with you, or to give you an advice on something. Be like, hey, try it this way, and then go out and do it, and then be like, okay. And if trying something and another actor doesn't necessarily know you're trying something new, it doesn't make you feel like you can't do that, because they're just going to roll with it, and it will either work or it doesn't. But yeah, it's very, very collaborative.
John, basically the same question. How did it feel for yourself with some of these veteran actors of not being in a musical? How was that transition for you, and how did you feel? Did you feel welcomed in the cast? I'm not unfamiliar to the Beaver Dam stage, but I also have not been on it much. I did a couple of plays several years ago and went away for a time and came back, and it can be a little intimidating, but I think that also just like plays into. I try to harness that in Act 1, just trying to make that
work, and in Act 2, just making it work.
Ron, I do want to ask about the set and behind the scenes and some of the inspiration there. But since we are talking about acting, I'm wondering if you too, Laurel and John, do you have, is there one thing that you feel is most important for an actor of all the different attributes when it comes to collaborating and performing and presenting? What is, in your opinion, the attribute or skill that you best need to internalize?
Well, when it comes to collaboration, well, number one, I usually start off the very first rehearsal to let them know that my directing style and my management style in real life, out in the real world where I get paid, I am collaborative. I do not pretend to have all the answers. I don't want them to think I have all of the answers, but I have a vision, and I give people all the latitude to figure things out. Every once in a while, you'll get. I remember one play I did that was a Peninsula Players written musical, as a matter of fact, where there was a couple of actors that they didn't. It wasn't that they didn't want to collaborate, but they wanted to be directed. So for those actors, then I would spell it out. Here's what we want. Here's where you need to be. Those types of things. But collaborative is good. And I think on this particular type of show, where it is a comedy, where there's a little physical comedy as well. But they're writers. It isn't like they're dancing and singing all the time. So at that point, improvisation is really important. There's so much more to acting than just delivering dialogue and monologue. And that was when Jim McMillan, who plays one of our key characters, gave us all a book at the beginning of the production on tips for actors. And so I took it to heart. I had a flight out to Reading, Pennsylvania, and back early on in the production. And so I read the book on the plane back and forth, and I highlighted things, and we went over some things. And one of the things was acting when you're not delivering dialogue. Facial expressions. How do you react to that person that just said something? How do you react to somebody that's reacting to what somebody else said? And and I'm going to paraphrase, but for goodness sake, give the actor something to hold while they're doing a monologue or a dialogue, so that they have something to do with their hands. And just picking up like a coffee mug, like John mentioned, in the middle of a monologue or a dialogue, and filling it or taking a drink out of it and setting it down at the appropriate time, referring to a particular magazine or newspaper and picking it up while you're doing it, and setting it down at the right moment. These are all things that are not in the script. You have to. So that's thinking on your feet. That's all about what I call so there's improvisation in everything you do if you're a good actor.
So there is a space between the script, and it seems like you're mentioning, like, there's a space when you're not speaking. Like, how do you transition that space to your hands, and how do you transition it back to the dialogue and your face? How did this feel with that improvisation technique, Laurel? Was this a little bit different? Is this something that you're used to that Ron was describing?
It's something that I think I try to find on my own in every production I've done. It's never been spoken to me to do. So having that little moment where we talked about it, reading it from the book, is like, okay, it was really helpful to hear it said in words. So it's kind of always hard to do. And it just becomes part of finding your character and what would they be doing. But it's definitely the space between the lines is what is I think, like, what is really important about the show, because there's so much space where you cannot be speaking. And so it's like, well, you can't just sit there. You can't just watch what's happening. And so finding the little moments that's not written in the script has been really, really important.
And there are some beautiful moments that are not written in the script that they have come up with. That Diana and I will just look at each other and go, yeah, that's good.
I mean, John, you sort of have a physical background being a tap dancer, and I'm hoping maybe we can see an example of that. Would you be willing to maybe give us a little number?
Rat-a-tat-tat.
That's perfect. Did you find that physical experience, did that help translate to what Ron was mentioning about the physical presence? And
It definitely, just like being involved in like dance sequences, it like definitely makes you more conscious of like how you're positioning your body and how you're like what kind of a profile you're having. And so I don't really think that really factors. That definitely factors in, but I don't think it's too major of a factor. It's definitely in this show. I think that the emotion is first, and that just drives everything else. Not to completely like discount like previous like dance. I'm not that experienced of a dancer, but there it is.
Humility is important. Laughter on the 23rd floor. The production is starting the 13th, going until the 22nd. We're joined with two of the actors, Laurel Gash and John Stratman, and of course, the director, Ron Wilkie. What was your inspiration for the set design? Was this something that you had templates? Did you just make it up, or?
We did make it up for the most part, but we did our research. There's, YouTube is out there, so you can see how other people made sets. We did Google searches on what other sets looked like, and I was in a production last spring called "You Can't Take It With You" that had a wonderful set that was based in New York City in the 1930s instead of the 1950s. Well, this building, the real-life building on 57th Street between 5th and 6th Avenue in New York City, was built in the 1930s as well. So I kind of used that as the inspiration for how to design this particular set. In fact, the theater was nice enough to let us save 4 of the walls from "You Can't Take It With You" and set them up against a wall out of the way. And we literally took those back out and sort of recreated the set from "You Can't Take It With You." But this is different. What the star of the show wanted to do is give his writers more space. Now, this is not written in the cast. This is written in the notes. So they literally took out, they had 2 side-by-side office spaces on the 23rd floor on the 57th Street building, and they just tore out, they knocked out the wall between the two offices, and they didn't bother to fix it. So one side of the set is one room, and one side of the same set is another room, and in between will be a brick wall that shows where they knocked out the wall. So we've changed. So we on purpose we've made it look like 2 different rooms that is one big room. But the star of the show, Max Prince, really likes his writers, and he wants to do the best for them that he can. So he made them this big room to work in. They had make sure that lots of bagels and pastries and coffee and water are there for them to take care of. And part of the fight with him and NBC is this budget that he's blowing all of the time, and trying to bring his budget into line, and even change the content of his show as television expands out of farther away from the upper northeast section to the entire United States, and you have a more diverse audience. So there's a fight on what the audience will or will not be able to A, understand, or B, appreciate. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited about this. The opening performance is October 13th. That is next Friday at 7 p.m. And as we start to wind down, I'm just wondering, returning to you guys, and John, we can start with yourself. What do you find most fulfilling as an actor? What if you cease to be an actor tomorrow, what would you miss the most?
Just being able to lose yourself in a story, and just to almost like make yourself feel the emotion of a story, and having that inform a performance, and like making a performance, or like making a story happen. I'm very passionate about visual storytelling, and I think my interest in theater is just an extension of that.
What about yourself, Laurel?
Kind of along the same lines, just the catharsis that comes with finding somebody that isn't you. You get to create something or someone that doesn't necessarily exist, and you put yourself into it, and it's kind of an extension of you, but it's something completely different. And so I think that's what, like, to answer your question, I think that's what I would miss the most about it if I couldn't do it anymore.
To bring the Beaver Dam Area Community Theater to theater in general, a couple days ago we heard the wonderful news, and this is a great question brought in from Ninja about the ending of the writer's strike. And here we are with a play about writers on the 23rd floor. And feel free if any of you have any thoughts about this, but what do you think are some of the parallels between what just happened and what this is reflecting?
Well, yeah, again, you have a group of very talented, gifted people that think outside the box that are being restricted by an authority. So, and you have a fight between the people that care about the money and the people that care about the creativity, and which is very similar with the writers' strike. I mean, obviously they have their union that cares about taking care of the writers financially and probably artistically as well. But then you have the writers that, for the most part, I mean, they want to make money, and that's the important part of why they went on strike. But at the end of the day, at least I know for us, because we're all amateurs, we don't get paid for anything that we do. It is about the product, and so. These writers and this star are worried about their product, and the NBC is worried about the profit. And then the two of them at the end I shouldn't give away the ending, but they just couldn't coexist.
Well, as we wind down here, I just want to ask one final question, Ron. There is a definition to director according to Oxford or Webster. What is your definition? What is the role of a director?
My job is to give vision and to give them all of the tools that they need to produce a good product. That is what a director does. It's not a dictatorial. I shouldn't say it. When I do it, it's not a dictatorial process. It definitely is a collaboration. So I love that Laurel said that, and they took that very much to heart. But the job is mainly supply the vision, supply all the tools that they need to carry out the vision.
John, Laurel, put you on the spot here. Do you feel like Ron lived up to that definition? Would you want to work with Ron again in the future?
He's been very open, and he's been very open to the ideas that people present, and that's a very freeing thing. He sends many encouraging messages through his directing, and when something isn't working, he says so, and that's what a good director does.
Yes, I would work with you again.
Well, thank you.
Laughter on the 23rd floor. Show's opening up on October 13th with a performance on the 14th and 15th. The Sunday performances are at 2 p.m. All others are on 7:30. Tickets are available at the BDACT box office Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 until 4, online bdact.org. Is there anything else you would like to mention, Ron, about the performance?
I think that everyone is going to be very entertained. As they say, laughter is the greatest medicine, and if anybody laughs as hard as Diane and I and Beth have during the performances on rehearsals, everyone's going to leave the audience healthier than when they showed up.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, John, Laurel, and Ron. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
That
you,
will do it
Thomas.
for our first segment of Beaver Dam Area Community Theater. We're going to be joined with the second segment as we are getting ready for the Fire and Ice concert series. And actually, when we come back from our break here, we're going to be featuring one of the songs that will be presented from Midnight Purchase. We'll have Chasing. That's coming up next on Community Comment on 95.3 WBEV, powered by Daily Dodge.
From the Slumberland
someday. Bird in the hand is more than enough, but I'd rather play my luck. See, I've got this plan, and I'll be damned if I walk away. I'll be me, and I'm always chasing straight. I get it all back someday. You try to force my hand in space. You try to take my cards away. You could try, yes you might, but I won't budge. Yeah, you could try and try. But I'll be dead if I walk away. I'll need it, and I'm always chasing straight. I get it all if I walk away. I'll need it, and I'm always chasing straight.
TV powered by Daily Dodge. We are joined with the Beaver Dam Area Community Theater, and right now we're joined with two members of the Horicon Fire and Ice series. We're joined with the president of this series, Christine Schmitz, and Lisa Darner, Liz Darner, my apologies. Liz, the executive director. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank
Thank
you. Thanks
you.
for having us.
And that was one of the groups that will be performing a little bit later, Midnight Purchase, Chasing. I believe they're playing in January. They're not the first performance here in December, as we have Feed the Dog and Lucky Picker coming up Saturday, December 2nd at 7 p.m. at the Fine Arts Center. Tickets online, bdact.org.
Yeah. So Midnight Purchase that you just heard, they're going to be there in January. But yeah, Feed the Dog is a band out of the Fox Valley. And opening up for them December 2nd is going to be the Lucky Pickers. Lucky Pickers is a husband and wife duo. They come from McHenry, Illinois. Caleb, that's in that band, is also in another band called Miles Over Mountains, and they play a ton of bluegrass festivals.
And they played for us this summer, opening up our series.
The one over in Horicon that we have, the summer concert series that we do.
So I'm curious how you found these bands, but let's actually get a little snippet right now of Feed the Dog. They are performing on December 2nd. Here is a little clip of Salmon Man.
Da-da-ding dang dang, da-da-ding dang dang, da-da-ding da-da-dang, da-da-ding dang dang.
Cat go picking on the road. Cat go picking on the ding dang ding dang. Cat go picking on the road. My mama's gonna get real mad. Cat go picking on the road. Cat go picking on the ding dang ding dang. Cat go picking on the road. My mama's gonna get real mad.
And tap it along to that one. How did you find Feed the Dog?
Well, they first played for us when we were putting on our Jersey Street Music Festival in Horicon. I believe it was probably 2013. They played for us way back then, and we've had them back to HorrorCon a few different times, but it's been a while, so we're really excited to be bringing them back to Dodge County. One of my personal favorite bands.
What are you looking for in a group? Is there just the proximity, their style? If you just hear them, you know that's a perfect fit?
A little bit of all of those,
A little
yes.
bit of
You
everything.
you nailed it right on the head.
I think definitely a draw that we look for is original music with, original lyrics, original music. And yeah, I think it's just a feeling that we get to.
Well, one of the things about bands that we enjoy most, and there's so much talent in all of these individuals that for me, it's fun to watch the individuals play. And there's just a lot of extreme talent here in Wisconsin.
Well, the second group that will be performing with Feed the Dog is Lucky Pickers, and we have a little snippet now of one of their songs, Gene and June.
June dropped out of school when Jean couldn't pay the rent. Pulled all night shifts at the diner, wondered where the money went. And Jean, he'd be up for days. Long phone calls and trips away. Promised everything was fine.
Lucky Pickers with Gene and June. And how did you find the Lucky Pickers?
So Caleb in the Lucky Pickers, he plays with Miles Over Mountains, and that's a band that we've hired for our concert series over in HorrorCon. And just in talks with him, he said, him and his wife had a side gig that they do, and it's the Lucky Pickers. And they're obviously a little bit more traditional bluegrass, and then Feed the Dog is a little bit more
Funky jammy bluegrass.
funky jammy
Funky
bluegrass.
jammy,
Yeah,
okay.
funky jammy. I forget what they call it. They have a new word for it. It's like
Jamgrass.
jamgrass. Yeah.
Oh,
So-
okay. So, we didn't really talk about the history of the Fire and Ice series. We were talking a little bit during break. You guys started off, and it was a summer series, and eventually the theater actually reached out to you, was it in 2019, about doing the winter concert series. And what a compliment that was to the work that you guys were doing.
Absolutely. There's people from Kim Doyle from the theater is one of our regulars that comes to our shows in the summer. And yeah, she was fantastic enough to approach us and let us know that she really liked what we were doing. And yeah, paid us a big compliment by asking us to work with them and put together something for the winter months when there's not a whole lot going on. So kind of get some new shows over at the theater, got them into a little bit more live music, not just plays and musicals. And it also gave us an opportunity to bring more bands that we enjoy seeing and to Dodge County. And yeah.
Well, both those snippets, they really show in that full song. These are high energy bands. It almost feels like you can sense the mosquitoes coming toward you. And what a pleasant sensation that would be during the cold Wisconsin winter months. So is every show pretty much the same structure-wise? The doors open at 6. We have our guest at 7 o'clock, and then 8 o'clock, 8:30, we have the headlining band.
That's right. Yep. So yeah, the doors open at 6 o'clock. There's cocktails and beverages available for purchase, as well as some snacks. It's a nice time before the show starts to just mingle and see who's all there. And then opening act at 7, take a little break, and then main act at 8:30.
Yep, 8:30 to 10. And the bands always make themselves accessible after the show, selling their merch so people can get to know them or, get to know them, chat with them, tell them how much they love their music. And so that's kind of sometimes you don't get that with the festival. If you go see these guys, like especially Feed the Dog at like bluegrass festivals, there's a huge lineup. You might not get to chat with them. So this is definitely a more relaxed environment where they do have time to chat. They're not running, to the next stage or to another show.
What is the case you make for why live music like this is important, whether it's outside or inside in a theater? Why is it important to listen to live music on a regular basis?
Well, actually, studies show that it's very good for you health-wise. But one of the focuses of the HorrorCon Phoenix program is we firmly believe that the arts of any kind are a big component of economic development and community building, and it's a great thing for the community, and especially if we can support local artists, that's equivalent to supporting a local business. So that's what we like to do.
And you've been doing this for a long time. Do you have any plans on what you hope to grow within the HorrorCon Phoenix program? Do you like where it is now? Do you have any visions of the future?
Well, I think we're in a really great spot right now. Our summer concert series is very popular. People look forward to it every Wednesday. We've got about 300 people in the park. It's like a mini festival for 13 weeks throughout the summer. This year, we recently refurbished our community gardens, so that's kind of a new and good thing for us. We had our second annual farmers market. It's a dinner. It's a farm-to-table dinner with food from the farmers market that was prepared by Cindy Justman, one of our vendors. So we've got a lot of cool things happening. I don't know, Christina, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, well, with our farmers market dinner, of course, we had to add some live music too. So Whitney Rose, who's going to be playing the second show in January, she's going to be opening up for the Midnight Purchase. She played at our farmers market dinner. So our Wednesday nights are our amalgamation of the farmers market. It's across from our community gardens that we just rebuilt. So it's it's down by the river. It's just a super amazing environment. Tons of people meet down there for the first time. They make friendships. I think it's just all about, like Liz said, it's all about community and that sense of community that we're trying to bring.
And certainly being able to have a performance in winter, there's not a lot going on, and this might be one of the only forms of entertainment people want to do because they don't want to be outside. And so the Camps Auditorium is such a warm and welcoming space, and you have concessions in time before and after the show to meet people that share a fondness over great music like Feed the Dog and the Lucky Pickers.
Yeah, and it's great because you don't have to drive far. Dodge County, everything's pretty close. Beaver Dam's kind of centrically located, sorry. And Liz and I are used to driving all over Wisconsin for these shows, and we've had some doozy trips in the winter, driving in blizzards and ice and just going to see these bands that we love. So we're really excited because we get to have them right in our backyard, and we get to be home in 10, 15 minutes after the show.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Liz and Christine, for joining us. Is there anything else you want to mention about the performance coming up or about the Fire and Ice concert series?
Well, one thing I guess people have asked us, the question is, why are we doing things in Beaver Dam? Well, yes, we are a group that's focused on HorrorCon, but we also are focused on Dodge County as a whole. We believe in community, not just in each individual city.
Well said. You don't have to mention anything else, but I want to thank you both for joining us, and thank you again for your time. We really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe we have time maybe to bring the man behind the curtain for one final segment when we come back with the Beaver Dam Area Community Theater. David Allen Smith, I know he loves it when he's joining us, and so we'll wrap up with that coming up next on Community Comment on 95.3 WBEV, powered by Daily Dodge. Thank you so much, and welcome back to Community Comment, our third and final segment. We're joined with the Beaver Dam Area Community Theater managing director here. We have David Allen Smith, and I also want to say thank you to Ron, John, Laurel, Kristen, and Liz for joining us. So much talent going on at the theater, David.
Oh, it's exciting. It's a great place to be.
So we have failed to mention all the people behind the performances that are sponsoring and enabling this culture to be shared. Who do we have to thank for our sponsorships?
Oh, the list is too long. But we have a lot of local businesses and individuals who sponsor shows. It's really important because the cost of doing a production, I think, would surprise somebody. We set our ticket prices as low as we can and still not lose money on doing the show. So there's royalties to pay for, there's bands to pay for, there's a lot of other things, costume sets, lights, whatever we have to do to make the show good, and we set our prices. Sponsors make it so that we can do that and keep the prices lower. So local businesses will sponsor. We have different sponsorship levels. You get different things for that. You can obviously get your name on the poster, your logo on the website, even a click-through logo where they can just go to our bdact.org website, look at a show and see your logo right there, and you click on it, and it takes them right to your website. So we try to make sure the sponsorships are a reciprocal thing, so that the businesses who are sponsoring get something out of it as well.
There's a lot of love shown for the theater, and there's a lot that happens to make this all happen. Who are some of the people that you'd like to thank? Just for their time, their money, whatever it may be.
Well, Good Karma's on that list.
You don't have to mention us.
But there's a lot of people. There's a tremendous amount of support and love in this area. The Fine Arts Center itself wouldn't exist without the donations from the public, and our ticket sales keep increasing. People keep coming. Our classes that we have for youth, acting classes and singing classes, get more and more students all the time. So really, I can't pick a particular place. The list is really long. Lots of businesses sponsor, and we need that. We encourage that, and we love that collaboration.
When you're sitting, I joke that you're behind the curtain here and just kind of watching, and you're seeing people develop as individuals, because theater is such an excellent way of working on these skills. We often attribute to sports, that the collaboration that Ron Wilkie mentioned, or the community that Christina Liz mentioned about listening to live music. What is your favorite thing about theater, what it brings to people?
Nothing happens in a vacuum. Everything's interconnected. So Ron had mentioned that he had been on stage, and he'd been backstage as a helper there, and he had built some sets, and he's directing now. And that's true of many, many people. They'll come in and start with one thing. They shyly come in and appear in the chorus of a musical, or they'll agree to come and help paint something on a Saturday afternoon. And the more time they spend around other theater people, the more things you pick up, more skills you pick up. And look where I am. I'm the managing director of this facility, and I started as a chorus member. And so that's how that works. And time goes by, and you learn things. There's a collaboration. It's a family. We work under tough deadlines sometimes, and opening nights coming in 3 or 4 nights, and we're not sure we're ready, and the tickets have been purchased. The audience is going to be there. You got to be ready, and you rely on each other. If something goes wrong or not the way you planned it, which happens often in live performances, whether you're talking about live bands or choir singing or a dance number or a play, things happen. Somebody else on the stage has to fix it, and so they just fix it on the fly, and hopefully the audience never notices. If you came back and watched 3 or 4 performances, you might see some differences, because each one's unique.
Well, it's that old cliche that the show must go on, but
Yep.
It really shows that no matter what happens, you have to keep your cool, you have to be calm, and you have to compose some sort of order, because life is nothing but a series of chaos.
Yes, I was in one show once where I had been in charge of the set, and it was a repertory company, so we were doing multiple shows. So we would do one show at 2 in the afternoon and strike the set and put up a whole new set and do a different show that evening. And that went on all week. There were 10 shows in rep, so it was busy. But I was on stage doing a scene as an actor, and I noticed part of the wall was coming apart.
Oh.
And so I had a costume change coming up. So I did my scene and went through the door, and while they were helping me with my costume, I was lashing the set back together in the back, and then I went back out again. Audience never noticed any of that, but that's one of the fun things I like about theater. Anything can happen, just like life. Anything can happen, and when you have a great group of people around helping you, then you can get through anything.
Oh, you're such a master of cool because for a lot of people, stressing out, you're getting a costume change, you're trying to correct the set, and then you're going right back to character. What is it about that transition between, the panicking self and then the character? How does that work for you?
It's just about focus. When I'm on stage, when I'm performing, or when I'm directing scenes, or when I'm painting a set, that's what I'm focusing on. And so I'm able to switch from one to the other. Some people have more difficulty with that. Some people are really, really good at doing one thing well. I am moderately good at doing many different things. I'm not an expert in any way, but I always enjoy learning lots of things. And I think every production I'm in, I learn something different. And even in my position now, I poke my head into rehearsals, I watch things, I see how they're building their sets, and I talk to actors, and it's like, oh, that's a good idea. So I'm always learning something new.
You have your own IMDb page, which, in my opinion, makes you pretty much an idol. But do you have any lessons for people that maybe just how to work on that, how to work on transitioning between, the self over here and then the character? Are there any drills or anything that you recommend of trying to build that skill set?
I have a phrase in the theater: keep the drama on the stage during the performance. I try not to have any drama off of that. So during rehearsals, I like to be the peacemaker. If there's something going wrong with sets or costumes and people are stressing, take a deep breath. Let's just focus on what we need to do, work on the project. We wanted to have this. That's not going to happen, so we're going to have this instead. And that's what I like to do. So I keep the drama in the scripted parts, and all the rest I try to play it cool.
There was a question I asked John and Laurel about the most important attribute about being an actor, and Ron kind of stepped in there and mentioned collaboration, which Laurel had touched on. What do you think for yourself is one or some of the most important attributes for someone acting to keep in mind?
You got to get out of your own way. The most complimented I feel from friends and family who ever see me perform is when they say, wow, it just wasn't you up there. Mm-hmm. Thank you. I don't want it to be me delivering lines. If you're watching a sea captain or a plumber or a clown, I want to be that, whatever that is. And I don't want any David up there. So I think a lot of actors feel that way too. And so I enjoy focusing on being that for you so that you forget you're watching me. If you know me personally, I want you to forget that.
How does that come from knowing yourself so well that you know how to not be yourself?
I don't know.
It's such a strange thing.
Some people have it naturally. Some people, build on it over time or develop it. I don't know. That's what I enjoy. And there's some things I can't get rid of that are me. But if I can, then I will. I'll try.
David Allen Smith. David, we mentioned Laughter on the 23rd Floor. That's starting next Friday, the 13th. That's going until the 22nd. Multiple shows. You can buy tickets, bdact.org. We have the Fire and Ice concert series from HorrorCon. Feed the Dog, that's on the 2nd. There are some more shows coming up. What shows are you excited about on the calendar? Which ones do you think are going to be a surprise if someone has never seen the show before at the Camps Auditorium?
Well, I like the One Voice Children's Chorus. They're wonderful to watch. It's just really a lot of joy. And they're doing a Halloween concert on October 24th, so that will be fun. Lots of spooky songs. We have returning favorites, the Dueling Piano Guys on November 4th. That always sells out. It's a giant party. Everybody has their drink raised, and they sing along. These guys will do any song that you've ever heard of. And then we have a show called In Hindsight. It is a variety show. It's kind of like the Carol Burnett Show. Mm-hmm. Sketches and comedy, lots of wonderful local performers. I've been at some of the rehearsals and listening to the harmonies and the music they're doing. Unbelievable. So that'll be a fun show, and that is in December. Let me get the exact date for you, December 7th through the 9th. So lots of fun stuff coming up. On November 15th, we're going to make a season announcement for our next entire year. It's our 60th year next year, 2024.
Congratulations.
And thank you. It's our big diamond anniversary, so we are going to have a lot of wonderful shows. On November 15th, which is not that far away, we'll announce them all, and tickets will be on sale for the whole year, so you can go right to the website and get what you want to get.
Oh, excellent. Especially, does that include the murder mystery?
Yep, that'll be back
really?
too. Yep.
Because that was amazing. I mean, when you came on last time and said that you had to have another show, and almost immediately tickets were sold out. Like, it felt like I missed something.
Yeah, and we had 3 shows scheduled. We ended up doing 4. We've got 5 scheduled for next year, 5 performances. So Yeah, a lot of things I think will sell out far in advance, and that's okay. That's good. And you were talking, when we first began about community support. That's community support. People are willing to come, pay a ticket, come see the show. We love the volunteers. All new volunteers come. That's a way of supporting the theater. Come and help us. We need help with everything. And sponsors, of course. If you have a business and you'd like to be involved in this wonderful entertainment center here and get your name in front of all of these people, then please contact us.
It's so great having both the theater and the Dodge County Center for the Arts coming on and really being able to showcase what you guys are doing and generating some more excitement. And it creates a positive feedback loop. More excitement begets more excitement.
Oh, absolutely. And this is a very wonderful hub of entertainment and opportunity. I've worked all over the country, and there's nothing like southern Wisconsin. There's nothing like Dodge County or Beaver Dam. This is unique. There's an energy here. There's real serious support. People put their money where their mouth is. Oh, I like the arts. Yeah, but do you support it? Are you a patron? Are you a sponsor? Do you buy tickets? And the answer is yes, people do. A lot of people. So we're grateful for that. A lot of kids grow up here and have these opportunities, like you were mentioning sports. They have these opportunities to learn teamwork, build self-confidence. It doesn't matter what they go into for the rest of their lives. Those are attributes that will help them, and that's what we're trying to do.
Well, as we start to wind down our conversation here, David, I have to ask because you are someone that actually worked in Hollywood for a time, and this is October. It's the spooky season. I'm wondering, do you have a David Allen Smith movie recommendation? Do you have a movie that maybe for this time of year, maybe is a shadow pick or something that is off the radar that you would recommend if someone watching for the first time?
Well, I like some of the older ones. I'm really not a slasher horror film kind of person, but I found Aliens to be very scary. The second Aliens movie, the one directed by James Cameron. Alien was good, but Aliens was better. And I've watched it many times, and it's still pretty scary.
So you're on the sequel is better than the original?
On this one, yes. Now, the ones that came after that, not so much. But I think number 2 in the Aliens group was, it's still pretty scary.
There's your recommendation, David Allen Smith. Is there anything else you want to mention about the theater, David, or about how to contact the theater if someone wants to be a sponsor for any
Absolutely.
productions?
Our phone number is 920-885-6891 and bdact.org, bdact.org, and all the information is right there on our website, and we'd love to get you involved.
David, thank you so much for joining us.
You bet. Always a pleasure to be here.
And because theater takes people both in front and behind the camera, we have to give a big shout out to Justin the Ninja Wilski, who's making sure the stream is working fine on Daily Dodge TV, which you can also watch this later today if you just were on the broadcast. And a huge thank you to Corey Sparks. He's on the board right now. I think this is his first time actually producing by himself in the room. He did a phenomenal job. Thank you so much, Corey, because it does take a whole team.
It does.
To make all this